Good, good. Glad to hear it. The SAP reset date is,
The 19th of November.
thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Interpreter. Which
Good
case did
afternoon.
you, good afternoon. Do you know which case you're here on today for us?
It's Elaine De Paula.
Number
Paula.
Thank you. Who do we have in courtroom two?
Position number 8.
Okay, good afternoon. And this is Miss Manny.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Good afternoon, Miss Manny. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we are conducting by video. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. We're providing you with the assistance of a public defender if you choose to utilize their services this afternoon. Ms. Manny, you've been charged in case 24 CR 007499Y with battery family violence. Let's see, Mr. Howard, are you on? From my notes, and you all can correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Allen, I have a sort of fourth arrest, an open case for driving while license was suspended or revoked, and also a history out of Alabama.
That's what I have as well, Your Honor. This is a case that occurred on the 3rd of November at about 12 a.m. Police were called to 701 Atlanta Student Movement Boulevard. And there, outside the location, they met with the defendant and another relative. They were in the hallway outside of the residence and reported being in a dispute. The defendant said that she wanted her aunt, the victim, out of her house. Police mentioned to her that the 911 call had included a statement that a gun had been involved, and she denied that there were any weapons. She reported that she wanted her aunt to leave and that she'd gathered her aunt's belongings and put them in the hallway in the location. She allowed police to go inside to the residence. Inside the residence, the police encountered her grandmother, who said that there'd been an argument and that the Vic wouldn't leave and move out and that it wasn't fair. The victim, her name is Sierra Manny. She reported that she's got nowhere to go. And that indeed her niece had tried to kick her out, that she'd been paying rent at the location, and that her niece had moved her items into the hallway, and that while she was going through her items, the victim, Mrs. Sierra Manny, her niece, the defendant in front of you, began spitting on her, threw her cell phone at her, and struck her in the eye before she left and went outside the apartment. The victim reported that after the defendant threw her own phone at her, she went and put it in the trash can. Police observed what looked like spit on the wall, as well as the injury to the victim to her eye. The state would be asking for a 2000 SOB through pretrial and no violent contact and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. We did speak to the victim, Mrs. Sierra Manny. She said nothing like this has happened before, and she would like to continue contact. We would request that the court instruct the defendant about the proper way to evict people, and that there should be no violent contact between she and anyone else in her family living in that residence, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
Good afternoon, Mr. McLean. Any objections to anything that's requested by the state?
No, Your Honor, none.
Okay. As such, first of all, Ms. Manny, you just can't, if you're gonna evict somebody, you have to, there are legal procedures for eviction. So you'll have to follow those legal procedures if somebody is in your household. It's gonna be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1 day anger awareness, no further violent contact with Miss Sierra Manny, and no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Ms. Manning is on the line and wishes to address the court. I'll allow you to do that now. Doesn't appear so. Okay, good luck to you, Ms. Manning.
Your Honor, I see the Portuguese interpreter is here. I would need to be in a breakout for Elaine DePaula, position 3, to
We don't
interview.
have her at this moment. Stand by. Gotta get her.
Okay, thank you.
All right, where to next?
ACDC can go ahead.
Okay. Who do we have at ACDC?
Good afternoon, Judge. This is going to be position number 1, Ms. Anderson.
Good afternoon. Hope you're doing well this afternoon. Good afternoon, Good afternoon, Ms. Anderson. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar. You've been charged in case 24 CR 007501D with simple battery family violence. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
Third, 2011 violation of Georgia employee security law. First offender. That's it.
Okay, yes, good afternoon, Ms. McConkey.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. This incident occurred November 3rd of 2024. The incident location is 4426 Mink Slide Drive in South Fulton. The victim in this case is Omari Anderson, who is the defendant's husband. The parties were having a verbal dispute when the defendant allegedly slapped her husband in the face. The defendant told the victim told officers that when the defendant slapped him, he did grab her by the shoulders to keep her away from him and to basically just defend himself. The defendant told officers that the victim had grabbed her by the neck and she had hit him in self-defense. Officers did observe video footage of the victim facing the sink and the defendant approaching him, but the video stops before any assaults actually happen. Officers determined that the defendant was the primary aggressor and she was therefore arrested. Our office has spoken with Mr. Anderson, who confirmed the events in the warrant, stated that the parties have had arguments in the past, but never to this extent. He is not afraid of his wife and he wants to continue contact and also wants her to return to the residence. Based on that, the state's recommendation is a signature bond through pretrial services, that the defendant have no further violent contact with her husband, that she undergo some anger awareness, and of course, be on no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I believe Mr. Anderson is on the Zoom, so I would ask that the court sound for him.
I see you there, Mr. Anderson. If you would like to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. You certainly don't have to, but if you'd like to, I'll need for you to unmute yourself, activate your camera, and I'll have to swear you in. Doesn't appear that he wishes to address the court this afternoon. Any objections to anything that, there he is.
Give me 1 second. Yeah, I was just trying to figure everything out.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Anderson. Can you raise your right hand for me, please?
Yes,
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can place your hand down, sir. What would you like to tell the court?
Pretty much, like I said, we have arguments in the past. It's not gotten to this extent. I just, I don't have a problem with her coming back to the residence, as not for sure, but we have a child together. Just as much as a father, I know she would need her mother as well. I had already planned whenever she got out to go stay somewhere else for some time, just to, keep the space between us until, we felt like we can come back together as, and have a conversation about not only the incident, but just, what's been going the debates that we've been having in the past anyway. So, as I've always said in the past, the past debates that we've had, I can understand. I know when these arguments are going too far. So I've always tried to, for the most part, separate myself from the situation until I felt like we both calmed down and we can come together and have the conversation. Sometimes it's a repeat conversation where I feel like given my answer, but I felt like she was just looking for a different answer. I don't know. But I've stated to her in the past as well, when things are escalating, let's stop it. where it's at. Let's walk away from the situation, come back at a different time. So I'm just hoping that this situation in particular is something that can help with in the future, whatever whatever the conversation might be. Like I said, if it feels like it's getting to that point where we can't come to a resolution, both parties are, one-sided, I'm feeling a certain way and I'm stuck on whatever I'm feeling the same way as her, that if we can't come to a mutual agreement, we just walk away. And then, hopefully, in a few days, we can come back and possibly have a conversation and see where it goes from there. But I never wanted to get to that point, which, like I said, most times I'm always like, hey, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And I try to remove myself from wherever we're having the debate at. So, but I don't have any problem
How's
with
your
her coming back to
child?
the
How's your
residence.
child, Mr. Anderson?
She's 2.
Okay, sounds like you all need to get some counseling because it sounds like this is not the first time. It sounds like you all are struggling with this. All right, 2-year-old child, you all need to be focused on that 2-year-old child. As far as what that child observes, what that child sees going on in the household, doesn't sound to me like it's healthy. I don't have any jurisdiction over you, but you might want to consider getting some help for both you and your wife in consideration of your child. All right,
Yes.
I appreciate you being here this afternoon, Mr. Anderson.
No problem.
Mr. Cook, any objections to anything that the state is asking for?
Given the history or lack of it, we would object to the anger management at this time, but no objection to anything else. We would certainly want no. We obviously we're in line with the no further violent contact, but we would like her to be able to go home. She needs to take care of this 2-year-old child.
Okay, it'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. 5 days of anger awareness, no further violent contact with Mr. Anderson, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond, and a parenting class. Good luck to you both, Mr. and Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Who do we have next?
Number 2, Mr. Brown.
Good afternoon, Mr. Brown. And just let me address everyone that's in the courtroom there. I don't know if they were there when I previously made my announcement. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we're conducting by video. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have a right to have an attorney present at these proceedings. We're providing you with the assistance of a public defender this afternoon if you choose to utilize their services. Mr. Brown, you've been charged in case 24 CR 007502D with simple battery family violence. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
Second arrest. Was arrested this year for simple battery DV. Has a bench warrant out of Judge Edline.
Okay. Yes, Ms. McConkey.
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred July 29th, 2024. I have that the incident location is 2909 Campbellton Road, Southwest in Atlanta. The victim in this case is Jamisha Leach. Officers spoke with the victim who stated that her and the defendant had been in a relationship and had been living together since around January. The day of the incident, she had tried to leave the residence, but the defendant wouldn't let her. And when she insisted on leaving, he decided that he was going to pick her up and slam her onto the living room floor multiple times. After everything calmed down, the victim was able to leave and she went to a nearby gas station and called 911. Officers did observe text messages from the defendant to the victim where he apologized for putting his hands on her. That case that pretrial mentioned, the open simple battery 24 CR 0034559, was against the same victim. The defendant was given a bond on June 4th, 2024, where he was ordered to have no further contact and stay away from the incident location. That was a $3,000 SOB through pretrial services granted by you, Judge Morrow. And then he, of course, has that FTA for that case as well. The state's recommendation, given the fact this is the second case and he is in violation of that bond order, is that he be given a $3,000 cash bond. No further contact with the victim. Of course, stay away from the incident location again, as he's already been ordered to do so. Anger awareness or an FVIP, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. We haven't made contact with Ms. Leach, but we have reached out to her. I would just ask the court to sound for her if she's on the Zoom.
If Ms. Leach is on the line and wishes to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. Doesn't appear so. Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is 23 years old. He's supposed to start a job in the next couple of days at Silver Ramen Restaurant. Trying to get his act together, but does not have any money at this point. We understand the history and suspect that an SOB is out of the question. If it isn't, we would certainly like that. But if not, if it goes to a surety bond, we think a cash bond would be excessive. If it goes to a surety bond, we would like it as low as possible, and any other conditions such as stay away or no further contact. He can handle that. He's not at that location now. He lives at another location.
Okay, Mr. Brown, you've been before me before, and when you were before me before, I gave you a signature bond, and I gave you some conditions on that signature bond. I let you sign yourself out. At that time, it sounds to me as though you have violated the bond that I gave you personally. I don't, so I'm not going to give you another signature bond. And if you do not stay away from Ms. Leach and that Campbellton Road address, you're going to be right back where you are. It's going to be a $10,000 good bond. No further contact with Ms. Leach. Stay away from the Campbellton Road address. He shouldn't be at that address to begin with, so I'm not going to give him the opportunity to have a one-time escort to get anything that he has there because he shouldn't have been there to start with. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Brown.
Your Honor, could I get the amount of that bond again? I'm sorry.
10,000 good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Number 6, Jones.
Good afternoon, Ms. Jones. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007506C with battery family violence. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
No.
Ms. McConkey?
Yes, Your Honor. The victim in this case is Latimer Jones, who is the defendant's son. The defendant is accused of striking her son in the face during a dispute over his phone payments. The victim had abrasions on his upper lip, and his upper lip was also swollen. We have spoken with Mr. Jones, who confirmed the events in the warrant, stated that he is currently packing his belongings from the residence and will no longer be living there. He states he's not in fear of the defendant and wants to continue contact. The state's recommendation is a signature bond through pretrial services, no further violent contact with this victim, at least one day of anger awareness, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I would ask the court to sound for Mr. Latimer Jones.
If Mr. Jones is on the line and wishes to address the court, now is your opportunity. Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Jones. If you can raise your right hand for me.
Good afternoon.
Okay, is this, I'll need for you to activate your camera. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court? Okay, I can see you now, Mr. Jones. Swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Is that a
Yes.
yes? Okay, you can
Yes.
place your hand down. Thank you, Mr. Jones. What would you like to tell the court?
I would like to inform the court that this is not over a dispute over phone payments. This is over a mental health crisis to do with harassment as plagued my life for over 6 months and just happened to plague her life that night. And she just had a moment of crises. I would recommend as a professional, my professional opinion and my personal opinion is that she needs counseling.
All right. Thank you for being here this afternoon.
Did you get all that?
I did. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. McLean.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, it'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1 day anger awareness, no further violent contact with Mr. Jones, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Ms. Jones. You also, Mr. Jones. I see that we have courtroom 1 there. Can we
Thank
go
you.
ahead and place? You're welcome, sir. Can we go ahead and place Madam Interpreter? And I take it that this is the person who needs the interpreter, courtroom 1.
Yeah, this would be Mr. Paula at position 3 with a Portuguese interpreter. So I would need to be moved over to the.
I understand. I'm trying to get courtroom 1 to respond to me.
Thank you.
We can go to position number 9 so Mr. Cook can do the breakout.
Okay, so I take it that courtroom 1 just is not unmuting. So let's just go ahead and place them into a breakout room.
Number 9 in place, Judge, Mr. McCullough.
Okay. All right, thank you. Tell me again who we have in courtroom 2.
Position number 9.
McCullough.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. McCullough. You've been charged in case 24 CR 007500A with simple battery, family violence, and criminal trespass. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
Second. Got an open battery in state court. It's 22 CR 008-385A.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from November the 2nd. At about 7 p.m., police were called to 3200 Lakeview Place. That's apartment 326 in East Point. There, they spoke to this defendant's live-in girlfriend. Her name is Desiree Ross. The police actually met her first at a nearby gas station where she'd run for help and used a landline to call the police. And she reported, while visibly distressed, that she'd gotten into an argument with her live-in boyfriend at that Lakeview Place location. She'd come home at about 6 in the morning and he accused her of infidelity. She reported that they lived together but are not seeing each other anymore. He wanted to argue with her, so she went to bed. The defendant took a pillow from underneath her head and began striking her with it as she was laying down. She got out of bed and went to the kitchen, and he followed her, where he called her names and then punched her in her face. The victim fled the location to a neighbor's house. The defendant screamed at her, if you don't come back inside, I'm going to throw your phone. And then he threw her phone into the woods. And so she had to run to the gas station to call 911. She reported that there's been prior violence between the two of them. The open case 22 CR 008385A is a battery. He's actually set for a final plea in November and has a $5,000 SOB through the jail with a different victim. This is your bond from 2022. We have tried to get in touch with Mrs. Ross today, but haven't been successful yet. We're asking for a $2,000 cash bond. The defendant's in violation by committing a new assault. No contact with Mrs. Ross. Stay away from that location. 3200 Lakeview Place, apartment 326, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. And if you would sound for Ms. Ross in case she got our message. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Miss Allen, could you tell me again what your, the numbers for your bond recommendation?
I asked for a $2,000 cash bond.
Okay, thank you. Yes, let's see, Ms. Desiree Ross, if you are on the line and wish to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, my client is a high school graduate, did his work online at the Georgia Cyber Academy. We have stable addresses, and the stable address, I think, is his place, Lakeview Place. I think that's correct. His sister's phone number is correct. He works for the last 2 years at DHL warehouse and does work for the inventory in the warehouse. Before that, he worked at another warehouse. He disagrees with the facts. We'd ask the court to consider as low a bond as possible. The notion of a signature bond, if that is possible, Your Honor.
Well, I can't give him a signature bond. I've already given him personally a signature bond before, so that won't be happening today. It'll be a $4,000 good bond for the simple battery, a $1,000 good bond for the criminal trespass, makes for a total of a $5,000 good bond. No further contact with Ms. Ross. Stay away from the Lakeview Place address. He can go back to that address on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings that he might have there. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, sir.
Position, add on number 3.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Good afternoon, Mr. McGowan. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007512J with willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. It's my understanding that this is Mr. McGowan's first arrest. Ms. Allen?
That's true, Your Honor. He came in with a possession of a pistol by someone under 18. I have submitted an NOD for that charge. The defendant is 20, and this incident happened yesterday. So you have in front of you a single count of obstruction for refusing to follow the verbal commands of officers. This is from November the 4th at about 1:30 p.m. Police were doing a detail at a location where there's a lot of reported criminal activity. That's 2343 Campbellton Road Southwest. They encountered this young man who appears very young and saw that he had a pistol in his possession, and he was observed trying to hide it. And so when police stopped him to talk to him and asked for his ID, he told them no and fled on foot and had to be detained. We're asking for a $1,000 SOB through pretrial and requirement that he have no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. He turned 20 in January, I believe.
Okay. Mr. McLean?
No objection, Your Honor. Thank you.
Even that it's an obstruction charge, it's restricted as such. It'll be a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Stay away from that Campbellton Road address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. McGowan.
Add on number 6.
Good afternoon, Mr. Tabby. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007510F with battery family violence, simple battery family violence. It's also my understanding that this is Mr. Tabby's first arrest.
That's
Ms.
my
Allen?
information as well, Your Honor. This is an incident from last March, 2023. Police responded to 1099 Boulevard Southeast at about 10 a.m. Where they spoke to the victim. Her last name is Mungro, M-U-N-G-R-O. She reported that she and the defendant who share children, during an argument, spit in her face, threw water on her, and then struck her multiple times. She used her arms to block these strikes, and she was seen to have visible injuries, bruising on her arms. We spoke to the victim today, and let me get her correct first name. I apologize. She reports that she's no longer in a relationship with the defendant. She did confirm the information in the warrants. She says that they don't live together, that they'd had an incident in March of 2024 in Gwinnett County, so there's been prior violence at this point, and she'd like no contact. She'd also request the defendant be ordered to stay away from her current residence. That's 4625 Brindle Point Parkway in Snellville. Let's see. I apologize. 1 second. I just want to make sure this name is correct.
Okay.
Her first name is Logan. Last name is Mungo, M-U-N-G-O. She'd also like, actually, that Brindle Point Parkway is her mother's address. She'd request him to stay away from that location as well, but specifically her home, 5141 Stone Mountain Highway. That's apartment 6302. And she may be on the Zoom. If you could sound for her, Mrs. Mungo.
Ms. Mungo is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity to do so.
We'd be asking for a $2,000 SOB through pretrial since the defendant's not been arrested before. No contact with the victim and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Stay away from her home and the home of her mother.
Objection to any of that, Mr. McLean?
No objection, Your Honor. He has a different address and there should be no problem.
Okay, for the battery, there'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. For the simple battery, $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1 makes for a total of a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. No further contact with Ms. Mungo. Stay away from the Brindle Point address and the Stone Mountain Parkway address, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Tabby.
And on position number 1.
And this is Mr. Cadet. Good afternoon. You've been charged in case 24 CR 007511A with fleeing or attempting to elude a police officer and willful obstruction of law enforcement. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
15. He's on probation in Dawson County. I put that in the notes. I didn't want to call it out.
Okay.
Also has an open case in Fulton, 23 CP 219211. That's abuse or neglect of an elderly person at that by taking 2014 probation, 2021 probation, 2019 and 2018 probation, and 2015 drug possession first offender.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This incident occurred about 4 a.m. on the 4th of November. Police tried to stop the defendant who was driving at 1080 Willow Bend in Roswell. He failed to stop for police with active lights. Once he did stop, he was instructed not to leave the scene while police continued to review and have an investigation. He rolled his window up, refused to look at police, and drove his car away. He does have a valid driver's license, but he has an open case here in Fulton and is currently on bond or under probation, under supervision out of Dawson County. We'd ask for a $1,000 surety bond, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, Your Honor.
500 on each charge?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McLean?
Well, Your Honor, my client is a graduate of let's see, North, I wrote down part of the word, North something high school in Johns Creek. It's North Village. What? Somebody help me on that. He did a year of college after high. He disagrees with the facts, Your Honor. He's quite young, 32. We do recognize that he has what that is the arrest record and whatnot. You know, he's worked at Burger King 2 years. Before that, he worked in car repair for 6 years. Worked for 18 months in Home Depot, and he's working on a certification because he does like working on repairing them, and he wants to get back in. So he'd like to ask the court to consider a. Thank you.
It'll be a $500 good bond on each charge, makes for a total of $1,000 good bonds. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Cadet.
Positions 4 and 5 on the add-on calendar.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Norris. You have been charged in case 24 CR 0075008F with simple battery family violence, and in case 24 CR 0075009F with battery family violence. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
33. Got an open simple battery out of state court. It's 22 CR 006-253C. Open suspended license out of Cobb. Open burglary, 2nd degree out of Bartow. 2023 FTA probation. 2022 disorderly conduct conviction. 2018 FTA probation. 2017 cruelty in the first conviction. 2017 trespass nolo. 2017 trespass conviction. That's it.
Your Honor, the defendant has 2 cases on the calendar today. The first one in position 13 is from January the 7th of this year, 2024. Police were called to 680 Lee Street, where they spoke to the victim, Lakeisha Lockhard, Lockard. She reported that she and the defendant lived together. This was at about 7:50 p.m. And that during an argument at MARTA near the West End station, he pushed her. She'd had a conversation with him about wanting to no longer be together. He shoved her from behind and left the location. A detective was assigned and spoke with the victim, who confirmed the events and ultimately said she wasn't interested in pressing charges. However, a warrant for that simple battery was obtained in February of this year. The second case, position 14, the date I believe is 6/16/24. That location, Your Honor, is 1664 Barnett Drive Northwest. This is a battery family violence. The victim is Mrs. Lakeisha Lockhard's 21-year-old son. His name is Malachi Gardner. During an argument between the defendant and mom, Lakeisha Lockhard, Mr. Gardner stepped in between them and told the defendant he needed to stop and pushed him. The defendant responded by assaulting this young man. He was seen to have a swollen, busted bottom lip, and they all lived together. Mom Lakeisha Lockhard was present and also corroborated that this incident had just occurred. This was the June 2024 incident, that the defendant left after the initial assault, came back again still angry, and continued to assault her son, and that's when she called the police. We've spoken to both Mrs. Lockhard and Malachi Gardner today. Their information doesn't necessarily line up. Mrs. Lockhard says she no longer lives at the location with the defendant, that they share 2 children. She confirmed the information in the warrant. She acknowledged what had happened with her son as well. She said that they'd had an incident in Gwinnett County in 2024 where he stole her license plate and assaulted her. She would like no contact. Oh no, excuse me. That's the wrong notes. She denies that they live together anymore, and she did acknowledge the incident as well as the incident with her son, but she says there's been no violence since, and she's not in fear, and she wants to continue contact, Your Honor. That's Mrs. Lakeisha Lockhard. We spoke to her adult son, Malachi Gardner, who says that when he is in Georgia, he stays with his mom and the defendant, and that they're still currently together and living together. That he's the boyfriend, longtime boyfriend of his mother. He confirmed the information in the warrant, and said nothing like that had happened between the two of them before. So based on the statement from the son, that the defendant and mom still live together, we're asking for $1,000 surety on each case. No contact order, a stay away from the current residence for Mrs. Lakeisha Lockhart, which we believe may be from the June incident. So that's 1664 Barnett Drive. And no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. No contact with Mr. Malachi Gardner or Mrs. Lakeisha Lockhart. Thank you.
Can you tell me anything about the bond for the open simple battery, Miss Allen?
I can, Your Honor. It's a bond from 2022. It doesn't look like there's an active warrant related to it. However, it is set for a final plea in December. It's a different victim, Jamita Thomas. And the notes indicate this young man failed to appear for arraignment in 2022 and failed to appear for a status calendar in 2022, but it doesn't look like anyone ever issued a bench warrant. So he's obviously in violation of that bond by having 2 new offenses. And it's documented that he failed to appear in 2022. So I'm not sure why there's not a warrant, but that's the position.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, Ms. Lockhart, I see you there. If you would like to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. I'll ask you to unmute yourself, and I'll have to swear you in.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Okay, there you go. Can you raise your right hand for me, ma'am?
Yeah, I'm trying to see
Do you
myself.
swear? Okay. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can place your hand down. What would you like to tell the court?
Okay, so it is true that Michael does stay here. We're very good friends. And for the year, we did have those 2 occurrences, one at the MARTA station and one at my house. My 21-year-old son doesn't want to press charges. For the whole year, Michael does, he does get angry. Sometimes I think he struggles with, anxiety, and sometimes he doesn't understand what's going on right away because he doesn't think first. But for the whole year, Michael has been getting better. He's been trying to appear to his court hearing. He was at another address, so with all the court hearings, he doesn't even know he has them unless he calls the bondsman. So he's been giving them my address. So basically, he's been trying to cover his tracks and go to every court hearing and pay off whatever fine that he needs to pay. So, and also he's has an appointment for anger management for counseling coming up on the 6th. He's also going through counseling just for, what we've been through. So Michael, he's not perfect right now, but he's getting better and he wants to do better. He doesn't want to continue to go to jail and get arrested. As I said, I don't want to be friends with him if he does do that. So he, our friendship, I guess, is helping him. Like I said, he did have those 2 occurrences and they were both mine. I don't know about the other one. But Michael is trying to get better. He's trying to do better. And he has been working at the Regal Movie Theater for about 8 months, since I think February. And he missed work Saturday and Sunday. So I just wanted to say that, like, he is getting better. And that's just it.
Okay,
I'm
so
not feeling. Go ahead.
all right. So you all, do you share any children together?
We don't have any children. He has a daughter, but it's not from me. I have 3 grown
Okay.
children. My youngest child is 17 years old. We don't have any children together.
Okay, and are you living at the Barnett Drive address?
It's Barrett Drive.
Barrett?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm not understanding. You say that that's your address. Does he live there also?
Yes, he does stay here right now.
Okay, and does he have another address that he can go to? When you say he's living here right
Mm.
now, I guess I'm not understanding what
I don't
that
know if he has another
means.
address. I don't know if he has another address that he goes to, but I know he lives here with me. So I don't know if he has another address that he goes to.
And how long has he been living there with you?
Well, he moved out after Father's Day. He was gone for maybe a month. So that's June. And I think he came back in maybe July or August. So he's been here since August. Yes.
Okay, and have there been any problems since August?
No, there hasn't been any problems. Like I said, he's been going through counseling and is trying to get himself together.
Thank you for being here this afternoon, Ms. Lockhart.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
McLean?
Your Honor, on the last point first, I believe the counselor to whom she's referring is Daryl at Rivers of Living, and he is doing that counseling. He went through Columbia High School over in Decatur, in DeKalb County, and did 4 years there. Before that job she mentioned, he worked at Church's Chicken. He is 44 years old. I would like to ask the court to consider a signature bond if possible.
Okay, so on position number 4, for the simple battery, it'll be a $500 good bond. No further violent contact with Ms. Lockhart. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. For position number 5, it'll be a $500, the battery family violence, it'll be a $500 good bond. No further contact with Malachi Gardner. And no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Norris. You as well, Ms. Lockhart.
Thank you.
We can do position number 3 in courtroom 1, the Portuguese interpreter case.
Okay, Madam Interpreter, if you'll raise your right hand for me, please, ma'am. Affirm that you will translate from Portuguese to English and English to Portuguese to the best of your ability.
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, Mr. Paula. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar.
Boa tarde, senhora De Paula. Eu sou o juiz Eric Morrow e hoje nós vamos então ter a agenda acelerada de acusações do juízo de primeira instância.
You have been charged in case 24 CR 007503Y with battery family violence.
A senhora foi acusada, então, no caso 24 CR 007503Y de violência doméstica.
It's my understanding that this is Ms. DePaula's first arrest.
Eu, então, entendo que essa foi a primeira vez que a senhora De Paula foi presa.
Yes, Ms. McConkey.
Your Honor, this incident occurred yesterday at 583 Northridge Road in Sandy Springs.
Esse incidente ocorreu ontem no endereço 583 Northridge Road, em Sandy Springs.
The victim in this case is Kleber de Souza. Per the warrant, the victim told officers the parties are married.
A vítima, nesse caso, é Kleber de Souza e foi falado aos policiais que eles são casados.
The defendant is accused of scratching the victim and leaving multiple scratch marks all over his body.
A vítima é acusada de arranhar, a ré é acusada de arranhar a vítima e deixar várias marcas de arranhão.
The defendant told officers that the victim was cheating on her and all she wanted was for him to get out of the apartment, but he refused to leave.
A acusada falou que a vítima estava traindo ela, e a única coisa que ela queria é que ele saísse do apartamento.
The victim told officers that he went to sleep and everything was fine and was awoken when the defendant began attacking him.
A vítima falou para os policiais que ele foi dormir, estava tudo bem, e ele acordou com a acusada atacando ele.
The state's recommendation is a signature bond through pretrial services, no further contact with the victim.
A recomendação da promotoria é uma fiança por assinatura e não ter, né, contato com a vítima.
Anger awareness, and at this time, a stay away from the incident location simply because we have not spoken with the victim to discuss contact.
Também um curso de gestão de raiva, ficar longe da vítima, porque nós ainda não tivemos contato com a vítima para
Anything further, Ms.
conversar
McCarthy?
sobre a proximidade.
No, Your Honor, if you could just sound for the victim, please.
Eu não tenho mais nada, só gostaria de ter a sua palavra sobre a vítima.
If Mr. De Souza is on the line and wishes to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so.
Senhor De Souza, se o senhor estiver aqui na chamada, agora é a sua oportunidade de falar com o juiz.
Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, my client describes their relationship as partners. She's 40 years old. She tells me that Mr. De Souza lives at part of the time in another location in Sandy Springs and part of the time in Florida and only occasionally at the Northridge Road location. She has no other place to go.
A minha cliente, então, me diz que eles estavam no relacionamento, ela tem 40 anos de idade, e o senhor De Souza ficava tempo parcial com ela, ele também ficava em outros locais, um local em Sandy Springs e outro na Flórida, ocasionalmente no endereço da Northridge. E ela não tem nenhum lugar para ir.
Her position is he was the primary aggressor, and the neighbors called the police when they heard her scream.
A posição dela é de agressora principal, mas a polícia chamou, os vizinhos chamaram a polícia quando escutaram ela gritando.
We obviously would have no objection to a signature bond.
Obviamente, nós não temos nenhuma objeção a uma fiança por assinatura.
We would be looking for no further violent contact.
Nós também estaríamos pedindo não ter contato violento.
And we would wish her to return to her apartment at 583 Northridge Road. She is a sublessee there, and he's not on the lease at all, and only occasionally stays there.
E nós, então, pediríamos que ela pudesse voltar para o apartamento dela. Ela subloca o apartamento do endereço 583 Northridge Road. O nome dele não faz parte do contrato de aluguel.
Nothing further.
Não temos mais nada.
It'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1.
Então, seria uma fiança de $2.000 através dos serviços de saneamento do processo nível 1.
No further contact with Mr. De Souza at this time, since no one has spoken with him.
Mais nenhum contato com o senhor De Souza pelo momento, já que ninguém conseguiu entrar em contato com ele.
She can go back to the Northbridge Road apartment with law enforcement on one occasion. If Mr. De Souza is there, she'll have to gather her belongings and find somewhere else to reside. If he is not residing there, she can stay there.
Ela pode, então, voltar ao endereço 583 Northridge Road com a polícia uma vez para pegar os bens dela, caso ele esteja lá, e caso ele não esteja lá, ela pode ficar no apartamento.
No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond.
E não usar drogas, álcool ou portar armas enquanto estiver sob a fiança.
Good luck to you, Mr. Paula.
Boa sorte, senhora De Paula.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Madam Interpreter. We appreciate you being here this afternoon.
Okay, anytime, Judge. Thank you.
Position number
Who do we have?
7.
Okay.
What is this?
Position number 7. Is it Kakanovich?
Kachinovich.
Kasinovich, good afternoon, sir. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007507G with reckless stunt driving and driving in circular or zigzag course lane drags.
Second
Your
arrest.
history,
Second, 2018 possession of marijuana. PTO.
Ms. McCockey.
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred September 2nd, 2024 at 496 Plasters Avenue Northeast in Atlanta. The defendant is accused of doing donuts and laying drag on Armour Drive and Plasters Avenue. Social media posts do confirm that the defendant was engaged in the activity, which was orchestrated by Christopher Fawn as part of a music video shoot. License plate readers also placed the vehicle driven by the defendant heading towards 496 Plasters around the time of the incident. The state's recommendation for this defendant is a signature bond, that he have no contact with Christopher Fawn, who orchestrated the event, that he also have no further contact with Islam Aslanov. That is another individual who was also engaged in the donuts and drag racing. Stay away from that incident location. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Any objection to any of that, Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, I wouldn't think so. I was not aware of the names of the people to stay away from, so I did not quiz him as to whether he works with anybody or anything like that. But I don't know of any reason why he can't stay away from those people.
Okay. As such, it'll be for each offense a $2,000 signature bond through the jail, makes for a total of a $4,000 signature bond through the jail. Stay away from the Plasters Avenue and Armour Drive location. No further contact with the two named individuals, and no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Let's see, Ms. Bridgewater, do you have those the names of the
I can
of those individuals?
No,
I'll
I was
send it.
about to text Miss McCockey to tell her to put it in the chat for me.
I got you.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, good luck to you, sir.
Position number 4. I'm sorry, position number 5. Number 5.
Okay, you're fine. Good afternoon, Mr. Gaddy. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007505B with simple battery family violence. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
7. 2020 driving without a valid license, no law. 2019 simple assault conviction.
Aki?
Yes, Your Honor. The incident location is 4920 Aaron Road in South Fulton. The victim in this case is Avion Powell, who is the defendant stepchild. The victim is 20 years old. The defendant is accused of slapping the victim in the face after the victim tried to intervene in a dispute between his mother and the defendant. The defendant, who was intoxicated at the time, admitted to officers that he did slap the victim because the victim was being disrespectful. Our office has reached out to try to get in contact with the victim. We have not been able to do so. We have gotten in contact with his mother, though. Of course, she is not the victim in this case, and we are still trying to reach out to talk to the victim regarding the parties' histories together, as well as whether or not he wants contact. So at this time, we are going to ask for a signature bond, that he have no further contact with this victim, that he stay away from this incident location, undergo some anger awareness, have no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I would ask the court to sound for Avion Powell if he is on the Zoom.
Mr. Powell is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity to do so. Mr. Cook, is this your case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, my client is 42 years old. He lives at 4920 Yarn Road. The alleged victim is the son of his wife and is 20 years old and occasionally lives there. So his wife lives there. My client lives there. And there are some grandchildren that live there. We obviously have no objection to a signature bond. But we would object to the anger management, and we would object to a stay away. I realized we hadn't contacted them, the alleged victim, but my client has lived there many years and is married, and this is his home. I know this is a difficult situation, but we would ask that he be able to go home. He works at Home Depot and Pro Works warehouse. I know you don't have jurisdiction over Mr. Avion, but we would certainly like to have. We object to the stairway. We would like no further violent contact. Nothing further.
Sorry, Mr. Cook. Per the warrant, it does state that the victim lives in the household. I'm not sure what kind of lives there means, but in the warrant, it says that he does live at the location. And we did tell his mother to have him get in contact with us. We just, again, unfortunately have not been able to speak to him, so we wouldn't feel comfortable with no further violent contact.
Okay. It'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. No further contact with Mr. Powell. I'll allow him to go to the Aaron Road address on one occasion with law enforcement. If Mr. Powell is living there, then Mr. Gaddy necessarily cannot stay there and will have to gather his belongings and find somewhere else to go. If Mr. Powell is living someplace else, then of course, Mr. Gaddy, you can live at the Aaron Road address. But because you cannot have any contact with Mr. Powell at this point in time whatsoever, you obviously can't be under the same roof. Okay? No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while you're out on bond. Good luck to you, sir.
Position number 4.
Good afternoon, Mr. Fondro. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007504G with theft of lost or mislaid property. Is your history, Mr. Howard?
6. Last was 2020 out of Miami, Florida. Bomb, arson, false report against state property. 2019 possession of tools, trespass. 2019 forgery in the 4th, trespass, theft by deception, conviction. 2019 giving false names, simple battery, conviction. And 2 more Death by deception convictions, 2019.
Ms. McCoy?
Yes, Your Honor. Excuse me. This incident happened yesterday at 235 Peachtree Center Avenue Northeast in Atlanta. The victim in this case is a Mr. Lorenzo Gilbert. The defendant is accused of using the victim's card to buy Chick-fil-A. The victim had misplaced his wallet in the food court of the location, and when officers met with the defendant, he did admit to using the card to buy food because he was hungry. There's also security footage of the incident, and the victim's wallet and cards were found on the defendant's person. The state's recommendation is a $1,000 surety bond, particularly given the defendant's history of theft convictions. No further contact with Mr. Lorenzo Gilbert. Stay away from that incident location. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I would ask the court to sound for Mr. Lorenzo Gilbert.
Mr. Gilbert is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity to do so. Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 37 years old. He is not currently working, so he'd have a trouble making any kind of surety bond for certain. We would be asking, therefore, for a signature bond at whatever level the court deems appropriate. And we certainly have no objection to a stay away or no further contact.
Okay, it's going to be $1,000 signature bond through the jail. No further contact with Mr. Lorenzo. Stay away from the incident location, and no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Mr. Fonville, I'm going to give you the opportunity to sign yourself out, but if you do not show up for your next court hearing, this bond's going to be revoked, and you're going to be right back where you are, okay? Does he have somewhere to reside, Mr. Cook?
Yes, he's given me an address, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Good luck to you, Mr. Fonville.
Oh, add-on number 2, Howard.
Good afternoon, Mr. Howard. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007513E with 2 counts of battery, family violence, and cruelty to children in the 3rd degree. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
Yeah, 7, 2021.
Did I lose you, Mr. Howard?
I think so. I can give you his information.
Okay.
He's got a obstruction conviction from 2021, a burglary first offender conviction out of Clayton County. This is an incident that occurred on the 10th of October of 2024 at about 9 a.m. This case was initially reported to APD, and an investigator there followed up based on the initial report. Police responded to 1125 Cancade Circle Southwest, I believe. That's CANCADE. It's difficult to read on the warrant. It's actually at the zone precinct. The victim showed up with her small child and had visible injuries. She made a report that she'd been assaulted on that day by her live-in boyfriend and the father of her child. The child with her had a date of birth from 2023, and his name is Shahid Howard II. She reported that during an incident at one of his relatives' houses nearby, he struck her in the face with his fist and grabbed her by her neck, applying pressure with both hands. She was eventually able to get away. She was seen to have a very bloody laceration to her forehead and scratches and bruising around her neck. Officers took pictures of the injuries. There was body camera footage as she made the report. She identified the defendant as the person who assaulted her, and she was transported to Grady. A warrant was obtained on October the 28th, Your Honor. So in front of you, you've got a battery, family violence for causing the laceration on her head by striking her, grabbing her by the neck, causing this bruising, and doing this in front of the child that they share on October the 10th. We've been in touch with Miss Sojourner Hall. She reports that they are no longer in a relationship and don't live together. She now claims she was never strangled. He never put his hands around her neck. She never told police he put his hands around her neck. That she doesn't even know how she sustained these injuries, and she's not in fear of him. So if you could sound from Miss Sojourner Hall, I think she's joining us on the Zoom. But based on the facts and the obvious injuries, as well as the presence of the child, Your Honor, we'd be asking for a $3,000 surety, no contact with Miss Hall or the minor child, stay away from wherever she may be currently living. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
Ms. Allen, you said that she showed up at the police precinct.
She did.
With
The incident
with the
location.
child.
She did, and the incident location was one of his family members' homes. So we are just asking that he stay away from wherever she may live with the child.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Hall, if you're on the line and wish to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. I need for you to unmute yourself, activate your camera, and I'd have to swear you in. Okay, I don't see that anyone's with us. Mr. Cook?
Yes, sure. My client is 27 years old. Supposed to have a job interview tomorrow. He's a graduate of Mount Zion High School. He denies the allegations that stated in the warrant, and states that he did not, in fact, inflict any harm on Ms. Hall and was not, and denies the allegations completely. Nothing further, Your Honor.
For each the battery family violence charges will be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. For the cruelty, it'll be a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Makes for a total of a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. No further contact with Ms. Hall. Stay away from her residential address. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Howard. Your client has a question, Mr. Cook?
Mr. Howard, you got a signature bond. I think that will leave well enough alone. What if you have a procedural question, but don't?
It's not nothing. It's just about my son. Like, my son wasn't there. Can I have custody to see my son?
Oh, okay. So you have children with Miss Howard?
Yes, sir.
With
Shaheed Howard II. He was not there. He wasn't present at all. I don't know how he.
Okay, so I'm not going to keep you away from your son, sir. So you can have third-party transfer. So you can't have any contact with her. You'll have to arrange through a third party to see your child. Okay. All right. Very good. Good luck to you, sir. Does that conclude the 2 o'clock calendar?
Yes, we're done, sir.
All right, very good. Thank you very much, Ms. Bridgewater, whenever you're ready.
Once again, the reset date for the SAP calendar is November the 19th. Position number 1 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. Position number 2 is going to the SAP calendar with a $10,000 good bond.
Judge, can you mute your mic?
Yeah, are you getting feedback from me?
Yes.
Is everybody else getting feedback from me too?
Yes, sir.
They just shy, so I'll tell you.
No, I muted everyone else, but I didn't want to mute the judge, so maybe it was coming from you, Judge.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I didn't, so anytime that happens, I don't want to disrupt court, so y'all just let me know, okay?
Okay, position number 3 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. Position 4, reset further notice with a $1,000 SOB through the jail. Position 5 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. Position 6 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. 7 is reset further notice with a total $4,000 SOB through the jail. 5 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. 9 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $5,000 good bond. Okay, I'm gonna come back to position number 1 on the add-on calendar. Position number 2 is reset further notice with a total $5,000 SOB through pretrial. 3 is reset further notice with a $1,000 SOB through pretrial. 4 is going to the SAP calendar with a $500 good bond. 5 is going to the SAP calendar with a $500 good bond. And 6 is reset further notice with a total $3,000 SOB through pretrial. Going back to position number, I believe it's,
I got 1,000 good for cadet.
yeah, I just didn't mark it. Okay,
It's-
$1,000 good bond for cadet. And that would have been a total with a $500 on each charge. Are there any questions, comments, or otherwise?
Nope.
Calendar.
You're muted.
Positions.
Mr.
Sorry, Michael Bonner?
I'm sorry, who are you saying?
Michael Bonner.
Michael Bonner was a felony transfer today.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And Anton Staples as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Allen.
Miss Allen, I sent you a text about a visiting, the victim's name in a case. I don't think you've read it yet. I don't want it to go away before we, you're muted now.
Which victim was it? I apologize.
Uh,
Or what case?
well, I sent it right as we were doing the case. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It was probably
Well,
one on the add-on. When we were doing the case, we didn't have the victim. I didn't have that information and I sent it to you.
okay. I
But
just
if
put
you
my
would-
cell phone in the chat, so just shoot me a text when you figure
Okay,
out
let
which
me
one
write
it is,
down
and
right quick before we get off of here.
no problem at all. I apologize.
It's probably that laying drag, right?
It's probably the who?
The laying drag case.
No, I sent that to her already.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll look through and I'll get it, but thank you all for your help. Your Honor, you want to unmute and
Say goodbye. All right. Y'all have a good rest of your day. Y'all be safe. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
okay.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
We're done, correct?